This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, MICHAEL COVEL. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. My guest today is Larry Hite. Larry was originally profiled in the Market Wizards book. Larry, in the 1990s, I believe, was the first trend-following fund manager to get to $1 billion under management. He's got a great book out there called The Rule. Larry let me write the foreword for that book a few years ago. And today, as many of you that listen to my podcast know, Larry and I like to talk. We talk about all kinds of fun stuff, usually about money and the ladies, since we enjoy both. Without any further delay, let's jump right into my conversation today with Larry Hite. Larry.
Hi, how are you?
Alive and well. How are you?
I'm alive and things are happening.
When I talk to you, things are always happening.
That's true.
Hold on. Let me set the stage here. You just finished your spring break, beach week, partying with all the young folks down there in Miami Beach.
Yes. I brought them all up here. And the fact that people are getting shot, it's something, but it doesn't really mean that much. They have a wonderful saying about that in Florida. They say it's...
I might have to edit that one out. Hey, not that I disagree with you.
I wanted to talk to you about the book, which I enjoyed a lot.
You sound like you got a lot of noise behind you.
Well, it turns out there's a big meeting I have to go to. But I actually wanted to remind you, one of the stories is interesting as a backstory. And it shows you a good lesson that winning, being correct, doesn't pay. So these two guys come to me. I help people for free. But I always find that somehow it comes back. So this guy calls me from Israel. And he's writing options, and he's right 80% of the time. But I break out, and he's losing money. I said, how could this be? So I took all his trades, and I saw, yes, he is winning 80% of the time, but he wins $1. But he loses $5 and $10 when he's wrong. So yes, he was right 80% of the time, but he was losing because his losers were bigger. So it shows you about winning. If you don't win enough compared to what you lose, you lose. Yes, you did have winning trades, but your balance is completely off. I thought that was very interesting. There's a backstory to these two guys. One guy then went out and did a test buying new hives. He was wrong 80% of the time, and he made 20%. Because when he won $10, $15, and he lost $1. I don't know. I thought that was very interesting.
It's funny you bring that up because I actually had a note here to share with you about somebody that wrote me an email recently. And he said, just point blank, I must have consistency. I can't have any losing trades. And I was thinking, how did he come to the idea that that's even possible?
Well, the first reason I could say he's retarded.
But Larry, hold on. They changed the rules on us. When I was in high school, it was retarded. It's now mentally challenged or a kid that has to wear a helmet or something like that. You can't say retarded anymore.
Well, okay. I tell you one of the things I liked about the book, plus being honored in it, I like Dunn's chart. And I said to you this because you asked me what I could do, any ideas. I'd love to see you do a big book, but a chart on everybody, how the trading works. And you could actually make this a rather big book and maybe make more money out of it. Writing about it, doing the book in color, maybe use two moving averages, like a 20 and a 60 or an 80 or something like that. The picture would be worth 1,000 words. Because everybody who looks at this game is used to charts. That's what we do. So I thought that book, that's an interesting idea for you.
Let me ask you about that Dunn chart. Beyond the longevity of the Dunn chart, beyond the fact he's been a peer of yours over the time, so beyond the longevity, beyond the performance, there's something about that chart. It's probably the longest besides Buffett, really. There's not many like it, but there's something magical for people that like data. And when you understand data, and when you understand roughly what Dunn Capital has done to make that chart, it's absolutely incredible, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is. The only thing Dunn did, really, was he did it.
That's a big deal.
Like me. I'm not, I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't do any of that stuff. But when I trade, I stick to my rules. That's it. It's amazing when you look at people who are so fat here and think about it. Losing weight should be the easiest thing in the world to do. You just don't eat and walk. Yet we have a growing population of fat people. The rule says all.
Larry, let me keep you at that for a second. The growing population of fat people that refuse to stop eating, refuse to walk or exercise, these are just weak minds. So there's a lot of weak minds out there these days. You observe them from your position in life. Why has the mind of so many become so weak?
Look at what makes these. Have you been in New Orleans?
Not lately, but yes, there's too much food, too much violence, a lot of things.
Mostly, my grandmother was a Southern belle for a while. I actually met my grandfather in Alabama. He being somebody like me, he saw this girl in the community and he told people they were engaged. He didn't tell her, but he made sure that my grandmother went there. She was called a belle, a Northern belle. So we always had this affection for New Orleans. But I get to New Orleans to see Willie Nelson, and the young girls look like tanks.
Look like what?
Tanks.
Tanks. Like on World War II or World War I. M1 Abram tanks, you're saying?
Yeah, they are not a little overweight. They are like twice the weight that they should be.
But what's the weakness in the mind? The mind causes the body.
Sugar.
Sugar. That's something physical that they have to keep eating all this sugar. What's wrong with their mind? Why do people not have any control? There's no discipline. Your whole book, The Rule, your life. Look, you and I, we're not perfect. Okay, we have times we're not disciplined, but generally we're going in a good direction. Why have people lost the discipline? Why have they lost the self-control? What has happened?
Well, first of all, and I'm not blaming it on Amazon, but think about in your own life, your mother had to go out and buy a chicken if she was going to make, if she was the one making it. Maybe you had a maid. And then you had to clean the chicken. You had to actually do stuff. You can live in your town or my town here in America, and you can never, ever, everything will come to you instantly.
Convenience is part of the problem.
Yeah. Plus, people are suckers. Look, you haven't been married, but you haven't been divorced. Half the people in the United States get divorced.
But hold on, Larry. I still have a problem with the ladies. I still like the ladies too much. That's a different story.
That's a different story. Well, no, they're sweet too in the beginning.
Hold on. You've had good luck in the marriage department. You've had pretty good luck.
So far.
And you're just a young man. You're just getting started. There's a long way to go.
But these are the things. I think there's a laziness built into people. Probably one of the worst things that ever happened to us is chairs.
Sitting is a killer, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't do stuff. I went out. I haven't done this for a while. I've been walking as I get older. But I had my first jog. I took a 3-mile jog.
Really?
Yeah, I try and walk 4 miles a day. thing about walking is you put one foot in the other. You have a pair of sneakers and you go. I actually once ran around the entire world. From New York, I went to Switzerland, to China, came back to LA and New York. Every place I was, at some point I got up and I took a walk for a half hour or an hour or a run. I was younger then, so I was running. Not particularly fast. People don't do that.
Hey, speak to the walking part. I mean, I love walking around Saigon. I mean, I know how to walk around the back alleys of Asian cities like no other. But speak to not only the physical part of the walking, the mental part is great. It cleans your mind.
Yeah, but these people maybe don't have minds.
I think that's a fair statement. That I see enough of these videos. You might not see this stuff, but on some of these apps in certain circles, I see videos of things that I never would have expected to see. And clearly, some of these people are not salvageable and they don't have minds. I'm sorry, they do not have minds. If they are out in civil society, they're going to damage civil society for civil people. And that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to in this meeting soon. And but one of the things, people keep coming to me and want predictions. I'm not in the prediction. My prediction is so many shit. But I now am sitting here and watching, it seems that the whole world, certainly America, is going to inflate itself enormously. And there's going to be repercussions. Yet they're spending money all over the world. Even the communists are borrowing money. This is going to end in a very bad inflation, which will end in a very big recession.
But that's not really a prediction. That's more just you observing the data and knowing that when the data starts to unfold like it's unfolding right now, only one thing happens.
Correct. When I started dating my wife, if we went out and spent $50 for the two of us for a nice little dinner, okay, that was pretty good. But today, I can't go with my wife and not spend $150.
Larry, when I was back in the States in December, I brought a lady friend with me from Asia. She thought this was funny. She wanted to have the American McDonald's drive-through experience. Let me tell you right now, I had not done it for a while. And for two people to have the burger, fry, Coke thing from McDonald's was $30. Where did that come from?
This is what presidents do to be reelected.
Invent money.
Print money.
Yeah, invent, print, same thing.
Yeah. Well, sure. They only want to get elected. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, 50% of the businesses that start die in a year.
And 80% fail after 5 years. 20% survive.
Yeah, okay. But let's say you're in the business like me. I went into this business with not particularly a lot of money, but I could go figure out what doesn't figure it out. And John Henry, we all didn't talk to each other, but basically, and this is the only business in all the tests I've ever done. If you're not crazy, these systems always come back. I have never done simulations for life. Look, John went down 68%, 67%. He came back. It's almost like you could value invest with some of these people. But you can't find many businesses that you can absolutely know what you're going to get. Not absolutely, but and with patience, I've done thousands of these tests, and I'm living proof. I always come back.
I had a conversation with Paul Mulvaney of Mulvaney Capital the other day. Paul's a trend follower with a 25-year track record. You've probably heard me talk about him on my podcast. He did 90% for 2022. He did his first podcast with me. He's like Joe Friday to talk to because you say, hey, Paul, speak to your process. And he's like, I did a lot of simulations. I have rules. I stick to my rules. That's what I do. He's not a guy that's elaborating with a bunch of anything. He's just like Joe Friday. It was a really fun conversation in that sense. There's no bullshit at all.
All of us do basically the same thing.
That's what he said. He said, I'm not special. He goes, I got into this because I knew there was people like Dunn, and that inspired him to get into it. He says, I wasn't reinventing the wheel. He said, I just saw what other people were doing and I figured out how to do my version of it. He goes, I've got very few parameters. We don't change things and we just stick with it.
Yeah. And I will tell you something. You know that most of the time I'm talking to you from my bed if you call me in the morning.
It sounds like you're someplace exciting in Central Park South right now. Doesn't sound like your bed. It sounds like something more interesting.
Well, but because you literally, I believe that let these systems run. I don't bother thinking about anything else. You'll make a very good living. Anyway, I'm amazed that most people don't do this. It's the lazy man's way to make a fortune.
I know you might have to run at any moment with where you're at, but I would be amiss if I did not, because I think we always bring it back to our favorite subjects, which is the trend following and perhaps the ladies.
Oh, of course.
And look, I'm sorry if someone's listening and they're upset. Larry's straight, I'm straight, we like women. I'm sorry, go listen to something else if you don't like it. But Larry, what would you advise? I know what I would advise. I would tell young men to get their butts over to Asia. But what would you advise to young men in terms of navigating the quote dating world? Not that you're doing the dating world right now, but you observe things. You see what's going on. You see the tanks, so to speak. What would you advise to young men today in this world of relationships and dating and women?
Oh, well, you know my story.
Of course, of course. You've shared it many times. Play the odds.
Right. And I tutored a couple of guys, and I said, just go ask girls out. Just go right out, and you will get turned down a lot, but you will see after a while, you'll get laid regularly. It's a numbers game. It's exactly a numbers game. You go over to this girl and say, hi, my name is Larry. Can I buy you coffee? Literally what happened, the guy who put me onto this, his name was Harry. I said, 1 out of 10, they go for coffee. 1 out of 10 of those.
But Larry, the shape of ladies has changed since you got started with your process. So it seems like the numbers of eligible candidates for your strategy seem to be decreasing by the day.
No, because look at your yoga class. Clearly, the people in the yoga classes look pretty good.
I'll vouch for that. In fact, you should come to Saigon and come to some yoga classes.
Yeah. You showed me the pictures. It's really interesting.
Interesting is the word, huh?
Actually, you know why it's a lot like across-the-board trading? As an investor, you don't have to invest.
You don't have to play the game.
But most of us play the game in the same way Mulvaney does it. We look for a breakout. So when a tank waddles over to you, you could be very polite, but you don't have to buy that option. So if you just go over to the people that are appealing to you, and it's a great asymmetrical bet. Because when you find somebody you like the look, you go over.
And what's the downside? The downside is a no. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. And you go right on to the next one.
And look, let me put one disclaimer out too, just so people don't think we're whatever. But American men are also growing in size too. So some of you guys out there, if you want to play Larry's game, you might want to go hit the gym first. And you might want to stop that McDonald's $30 Happy Meal thing.
You floored me with that number.
It's crazy. 2 people, $30. Larry, it was a burger, fries, and a Coke. 2 people, $30. In the suburbs, what is it in New York City? It might be $50 in New York City now.
I have no idea, but it's crazy. But that's what the guy should do. You pick what you want.
Hey, Larry, but maybe some of the guys are starting to like the tanks, though.
Well, God bless them. Because some of the guys are tanks too.
We can make a T-shirt for that one. It could just be God bless you, Larry Hite.
By the way, I think it's amazing, the recovery. It actually goes against trend following. Some of these guys like Mulvaney, a whole bunch of people, that if they go down 25 or 30%, they're coming back. That's an amazing thing for a trend follower to say.
There's not a lot of games like that. Name the games that are similar to that. I don't know where they are.
No, but they come close in making movies. They come close in those kinds of games. I used to play Buffett that way because I really understood his machine. And we got so I could buy the things. He has a formula. And I happened to use that. I didn't know it was from him, but I wrote this thing down and what I was looking for. And then all of a sudden I was buying a lot of stuff that Buffett was buying without even knowing Buffett.
By the way, you had asked me many times. I know you finally saw him in the book and probably heard him on the podcast, but Bill Dreiss, who is chapter 1 in that new book of mine, that's a hell of a story. You were not familiar with him, were you?
No.
He's a peer of yours. I mean, at the same time, really started.
Yeah, he did something great.
He said, let me automate my approach and I'm going to go surf the world for the next 30 years.
And he did it. He was a very bright guy.
Yeah. Let me catch you for a second. I think bright applies to a lot of people that I've met in the trend following world. Some people might have more academic training. For example, Dreiss and Dunn and Sakota. You and I have less academic training, but bright is relative. At the end of the day, what does it look like? What has one achieved? There's a lot of smart people that don't achieve anything.
Oh, yeah. First of all, you look at the traits of the people. We've all lost. We all get up. We all have a mathematical mind. We all can do numbers in our head. Those are the kind of people who think before they act. I don't know how many people in your book don't have a plan. How many people have told you that are market wizards and all that shit? They walk in, they don't know what they're going to do. And then they go in and do it.
People still love those kinds of stories. People love imagining that there's some guy sitting in a cockpit chair with 20 screens and he's got this instinct or he's got this intuition and he just sits down and he looks at the screens and he knows what to do. He's flying a plane. And that's just not how it happens.
You know a huge cross-section of us. The winners all do the same thing. All of them.
Larry, it never gets old for me to hear you say that because you are quite brilliant in the sense that you always have fun ways of sharing interesting insights and ways to pull people in. I think that's your gift. You're really good at that. And I think that's what's fun. I think people love your conversations because they can glean something from it. They can say, hey, that sounds like a way that I should think. I can steal something from that Hite guy.
Yeah, well, you're welcome too. Because if you go to those books, they all say the same thing. Some guys speak differently. One of these guys who do very well, they bet the house. They have some idea and they put all their money in it. Every once in a while, they make a shitload of money. And that's probably the downfall because they keep betting the whole house on it. And eventually they crash. They might come back because they have some sort of following. But in general, if you play this game and you don't have stops, you're dead.
As you share that, you got me thinking. I saw a documentary recently about Lehman Brothers. It was some relatively new documentary. It wasn't that good, really, but there was some information about Dick Fuld, who was the CEO of Lehman at the time, nicknamed the Gorilla. They played these videos of him talking to his troops behind the scenes that they released. He was screaming about ripping the hearts out of people. And I was just thinking, for people that might not understand what trend following is, there's not a place at the trend following table where you would end up screaming about ripping the heart out of somebody because there's not a place for that in trend following. Ripping the heart out of somebody is the way that you would scream to a room full of penny stock traders about getting on the phones and ripping people off. That's not the way the world that you and I understand works.
No. When people used to come into men's office and they said, I've never been in an office like that. What's wrong? It's so quiet. Well, yeah, because Don, me, a lot of us, we write out basically the same formula. We buy the breakouts, breakdowns, whatever, according to a set bunch of rules. Literally, I don't want to read much. I read the books like yours. In general, Those books all tell you the same stuff.
I would guess that for some of my books, the things that you probably like, it's a similar approach to your thinking, but it's maybe the different ways that people express themselves, the different stories about how people got there. I think you probably find that just interesting. I find it interesting too, that people come from all different directions and they get to the same place.
Right. So I like the book. You asked me how I could improve it. I would do a version of that, big pictures and shots. But the books are always good and they tell the same story.
I try to be consistent.
But the people who win are consistent.
Their personality, their perspective, their way of life is consistent. Maybe they do it a little bit different, but there's a consistency on how they're chasing success.
Yeah, except the ones, let's say my level, the people I know. Disaster always comes when they break the rules of prudency. They bet too much. They don't use their stops. That's what kills them. Kills them all. You can go get a book on trend following systems, and they're all the same. You buy the breakout or buy the breakdown or whatever, and you have a stop. People who don't have the stop, they die.
If people are really thinking about what you're saying, you're talking about having a stop on a trading system, but you really mean on so many other areas of life too. Meaning, don't sit there and take the pain. When the stop is hit, get the hell out.
Yeah, only my lawyer and some other, but I wrote a thing about game theory. First of all, you don't have to trade everything. You choose when to trade. The only thing you can control in this whole business is how much you're going to lose. Nobody can predict. I will tell you, in my career, I have some of the highs brought the lows. And I could tell you one word that describes how I did it. It's a 4-letter word. It's luck. Nobody can predict. You can predict the general direction, but I can't tell you the high. So those people come and say, could you give me, one guy came to me and said, look, I'm older, I need a double.
You tell him to go to Vegas?
No, he was a very nice man. But I said, Irving, would I be here if I could pick a double? Ask me, just give me a double.
You just said something, though, that I want to ask you about. When you said the only thing you can do is control how much you can lose. I wonder how many people truly understand what you're saying when you say that. If you had to guess, when you say that, is it 5%, 10%, 20% of the people that can understand that? I don't think it's many.
I would say 5%.
5%. Now, if they understand trend following, it might be much higher, but for just the average population, they hear, oh, this guy, Larry Hite, he's a famous trader, market wizard guy. And you walk into the room and there's 50 seals clapping in the room and they want to hear the magic sauce. And you tell them, hey, the only thing you can control is how much you can lose. I would just think the vast majority of that room has no clue what you're talking about.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Am I right?
Yeah, people want magic because mostly anything about gambling, it's about a bet. One of the guys I know had a friend who makes a couple $1 million a year playing the horses. So he invited me out to the track, and I brought my chief guy how to control his data. But everybody who bets and wins has a spread of bets. We got to sit down, and some of the stuff that I'm doing now is I found a whole bunch of uncorrelated assets that I'll tell you about the next time we speak.
Go to your meeting. We can always catch up again in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, good enough.
Okay, Larry, take care.
Bye.
I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.